Ironsworn, perhaps the most famous solo TTRPG, and while I've read the rules, and in fact I recommend them, I'm yet to actually play the game. But you know what, if you're watching this video, you might be in the same boat. So kia ora from beautiful Aotearoa, I'm Career Break Guy, and by Iron I swear that we're going to learn to play this game together now. That'll make more sense later. So what do we need? The PDF of the core rulebook is completely free, and I'm going to put a link in the description for where you can find that. On that site you can also find the character sheets and some asset cards. You don't need to print them, but I did because I like printing these kind of things. And you'll need a D6 and 2 D10, and that's it. Oh, and a pen. Now I'm going to be using the Foundry VTT so that you can see this more clearly, but don't think that's necessary. So if you've heard that you should play Ironsworn but we're never quite sure what it's about, it's a Viking / Norse themed game that is built in the first instance for solo play, but also works as a guided or co-op game. The setting is harsh, the people are hardened, and it's more about the clash of blades than the whiz of magic. For the most part, there's only one dice mechanic we need to know. Every time you want to do something where the outcome is unclear and interesting, you roll 3 dice, a d6 which is called your action die, and 2 d10 which are the challenge die. If the action die is higher than the challenge dice, that's a strong hit. Things go well, you get what you want, and then some. If the action die only beats one of the challenge dice, then that's a weak hit. Success, but there's some kind of cost or complication. Finally, if the action die is less than both challenge die, that's a miss. Welcome to Failureville, population U. Strong hit, weak hit, miss. 3 possible outcomes, and you might remember hearing them in my How to Solo Anything video. Now, if you've done the math, you've realized that these odds suck. A d6 rolling higher than 2d10? Well, welcome to the Ironlands, pedal. Ironsworn isn't about getting your way all of the time. Like I said, the setting is harsh, and the dice mechanic is geared towards giving you weak successes, which keep the story interesting as it adds more complications. But John Tompkins, the creator, is not without mercy, and there are 2 ways that we can modify our action die outcome. First is your stats. These range from +1 to +3, and you get to add whichever one is relevant to the role that you're doing at the time. So let's say you're doing something physical, and you've got an iron of 2, you'd roll 1d6 and add 2. Second lifeline is momentum. So this is a resource which builds up, gets used, and is lost during play. At any time you can burn your momentum to replace the value on your action die. So maybe you have 7 momentum and you roll something abysmal on the action die. You can reset your momentum, and then your action die now counts as a 7, which hopefully has gotten you a success, weak or strong. The cool thing is, momentum doesn't reset to 0, it starts and resets to 2 in most situations, so you're not completely without hope. Right, so who is our protagonist? You have 5 stats: Edge, Heart, Iron, Shadow, and Wits. Edge is agility, speed, and range combat. Heart is courage, empathy, social skills. Iron is your strength, endurance, and close combat. Shadow is your sneakiness and deception. And finally, Wits is your knowledge and observation. You have the values of 3, 2, 2, 1, and 1 that you can assign however you like across these stats. Now, because I'm interested in learning this game more than I am about thinking this is maybe my forever character, I'm just going to randomize these, and there's rules on page 236 of the rulebook which says how we can do that. So I've rolled a 1. You are nimble, fast, and precise. Edge. Cool, so I'll put a 3 into my edge, and then I'm just going to assign the rest in order, 2, 2, 1, 1. Feel free to pause this video if you want to think about your character a bit more. Like I said, just when I'm learning a new system, I like to randomize a character. They're not my forever character. Now you get to pick 3 assets. These are kind of the skills and experiences that your character has. Again, I'm going to randomize things, not entirely though, because I don't really want magic to feature in my game. I'm going to remove the rituals. It's your game, you can do what you like. Now there's also a way to randomize it in the back of the book. Again, it says draw 5 cards and then keep 3. So I've picked up 2 paths, getting Honor Bound and Spirit Bound, and 3 combat talents, getting Ironclad, Skirmisher, and Archer. So I'm actually going to keep Spirit Bound, Archer, and Skirmisher. I feel like this seems like a quite nimble related character, and then Spirit Bound gives me some interesting things that might come up during play. Last few details on the character sheet. Set your health, supply, and spirit tracks to 5. Now these will go down as you get hurt or use them throughout the game. As I mentioned earlier, momentum starts at 2, so go and mark that as well. And now we need to work out our Iron Vow or vows. Now the game suggests that you start with two, one a long-term vow and then one which is an immediate thing that needs to be addressed. There's suggestions all throughout the book about what these can be, so find one that interests you. But I'm going to say that I haven't actually named them yet. Pattern. Okay, yep. What was I? Yeah, right. So, pattern. So their long-term vow, I think with the spirit bound, is that they were in a fight and that someone they were trying to look after died, and so they've lost a bit of face and honor around that. And their long-term vow is trying to regain their place in their settlements, standing again. As far as an immediate vow goes, let's say that there's a cart of supplies which is late returning, and someone is concerned about that. So Patton grasps the iron clasp which holds his cloak together, and he swears that he will go out and find this person who's missing and the cart before the snowstorm is coming in. So this is cool, because this actually gives a direction for the story already. Now vows have different levels, and because I'm just trying to learn the mechanics, I'm going to set this to the lowest difficulty, which is just troublesome. Cool, and not in a snowstorm kind of way, I mean like, yeah, alright. So Patton is standing before the leader of their settlement and whoever it is that's brought this to their attention. And I think that most people aren't too concerned. They're not interested in going out, especially with the storm coming in. And so Patton, trying to look useful, is the one stepping forward and making this vow to find it. So Ironsworn has moves, and this covers all the kind of things that you want to do throughout the game, and we'll be looking at a few of them in this video. One of them is Swear an Iron Vow. This is where you pledge yourself to someone to do something. You roll your action dice, plus your heart, and if you have a bond with the person or settlement, you get to add one to that. So I hadn't marked it down before, but I'm going to say that Patton has a bond with this settlement, even if it's not entirely reciprocated at the moment. You're thinking about that long-term vow he's got. So we roll a 4 and 10 on the challenge dice, that 10's not good, and 5 on the action die, plus 2 for heart and 1 for bond, so an 8. That's a weak hit. On a weak hit, you're determined but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take 1 momentum and envision what you would do to find the path forward. Okay, so maybe not everyone was entirely sure where this cart was meant to go, or there's conflicting stories, and so I could gather some information. That's one of the moves, but I'm also just happy to hand wave it and say that Patton will get the information that he needs. So now that that's done, I think, you know, you could do a bit of role-playing, have some interaction with these people. There are a bunch of oracle tables from page 174 onwards, and I think I'm going to look at what's the name of the settlement, and also what's the name of the person who's missing. So the settlement is Grimtree, and the person with the cart who's gone missing is Bastion. So that means our Iron Vow is to find Bastion and the supply cart and bring them back to Grimtree. Don't forget, if you roll an oracle table and you don't like it or something else catches your eye, go with that instead. It's your game. And even if you did like it, you don't need to use it completely literally, just whatever it sparks in your mind. So Patton has a rough idea where this cart is meant to have gone, and so now what he's going to do is he's going to head out. There's a move called Undertake a Journey, and which I think this fits. This one is again a roll plus wits, and plus 1 if you've got a bond with the settlement or the person that you're leaving. So 3 and 9 on the challenge dice, and only 1 on the action die. Even with the plus 1 for wits and 1 more for bond, that doesn't actually beat the 3, only matches it. Okay, so I'm going to burn my momentum, changing that roll into a 3, plus the 2 modifiers means it's now a weak hit. I was never going to beat that 9. On a weak hit, you reach a waypoint and mark progress, but suffer -1 supply. So I'll lower that to 4 supply, and my momentum goes back to 2. Now, where is here? If I had an idea already, then I could just roll with that. Maybe I've got a vision of a lake or something that I wanted to visit. But also, I love random oracle tables, so I'm going to roll on those. I'm going to look at the location and location description. So 51 Ridge and 96 Civilized. So I want to say that Patton is trekking through and the storm is starting to come, and it's not overwhelming at the moment, but it has veered him off course. And he breaks through the tree line and he realizes that he's on the edge of a cliff and he can see out, and he starts cursing to himself because, oh, obviously the cart wouldn't have come here. He knew he was going uphill, but he didn't realize it was coming to a drop. So he starts to turn around, but as he does, he looks out and he actually sees like a little plume of campfire smoke down below, and that could be something interesting to look into. So play continues until I, as the player, think I'm done with whatever it is I want to be doing. Let's say that Patton finds Bastion and the cart, encounters some kind of challenges, and is now on his way back to Grimtree. Now I can use the Fulfill Vow move. This one is a bit different because you can't use your momentum, and instead of rolling your action die, you see how many boxes on the progress tracker you've already checked off. Because this is a troublesome vow, let's say every time he hit a milestone, something that got him a little bit closer to completing it, he gets to tick off 3 boxes in full. So 2 times 3 is 6. That's not actually bad for an action dice roll. Now we roll 2 challenge die, and we get a 7 and a 4. I didn't actually need to roll that action die, so ignore that one. But look, that's still a weak hit, which means that there is more to be done or you realize the truth of the quest. Envision what you discover, then mark experience. You may swear an Iron Vow to set things right. Okay, so maybe on the way back, Bastion opens up to Patton and says that he wasn't lost, he was intentionally taking these supplies somewhere else. And more than that, he's now trying to petition Patton to assist him. One, with returning these supplies to this other settlement, or people, whoever it is, but also asking whether Patton will help them as well. So I mean, this story just opens right up. Now you might be thinking, career break guy, how did you just play through a Viking themed game and not run into any combat? Combat is treated like any other quest or challenge. You'll assign a difficulty, let's say you fight a wolf, that counts as dangerous. Every time you do harm to it, you mark 2 boxes, and it does 2 harm to you. And then you use relevant moves to describe and understand the situation. You usually start with something like enter the fray, and then you might clash or strike, and eventually you will end the fight. It's the same mechanics and processes as other moves, so I don't think we'd need to go over it in full. Finding the right move to support the narrative at that moment, and then rolling the dice is really the rhythm of Ironsworn. It's quite simple and actually quite elegant as well. However, there is one last move that I think we need to look at, and that is the like and subscribe move. So I like to think this has been an informative video, so I'm going to get +1 to wits. And then let's also say that, you know, we've formed a bond already. So 3 and 8 on the challenge dice, 6 + 1 for wits, and 1 for the bond is 8. So because it only matches and doesn't beat one of the dice, that's a weak hit. Maybe like or subscribe, I'll leave it up to you. Speaking of, I'm going to leave you to get back to the Ironlands now. I'm sure you've got some vows that you need to complete. Don't forget to take a break at some point though, maybe check out my video where I use these mechanics and teach you how you can solo any game. But regardless, thanks for watching and hanging out, take care, and I'll see you next time. Ka kite.